those polls with us. Okay, so the agenda for today, so I'm going to give an overview, Project Firefly introduction. We'll go through some use cases, and then I will, my colleague has a pre-recorded video that I will essentially narrate on how you get started with Project Firefly, so you can kind of see the development process. And then we'll open it up for question and answer. And then at the end, we'll have a couple more questions at the end for the polls while we're doing the Q&A. Okay, so Adobe has been powering digital businesses for ages, right? So we started certainly in the digital media space with Photoshop and Acrobat, and we moved into the marketing space, essentially creating digital experience or helping our customers create digital experiences about 10 years ago, and actually a little over 10 years. There is no more complete suite of solutions to bring digital experiences and power the customer journey for B2B or B2C than with Adobe. And what I'll share today is not the solutions themselves, but then how you can extend those beyond just those point solutions to get more value faster by integrating it with other Adobe products as well as third-party tools, or even something that you might have built yourself. One of the things we pride ourselves on is an open ecosystem and open platform. We have a large number of solution partners, developers, and Adobe IO is the tool set that our developers use to make this available to our customers and partners. So essentially the APIs and the events, everything that you need in order to extend and integrate with the technologies that we provide. So just real quickly, a little bit about the Adobe IO portfolio. We have the Adobe IO website, which I'm sure everyone has been to, where you discover what's available to you as a developer and find any documentation. The developer console is where you'll spend most of your time as a developer creating integrations or projects. And then the API gateway is really the backbone of all of this. It is the highway to get from the solution that you've purchased from Adobe and then get access on the back end through APIs. Adobe Exchange is where our customers will go for any integrations that perhaps an ISV or a solution partner has created. They can download those through the Exchange, a marketplace essentially. And then Cloud Extensibility is our grouping of solutions for essentially building out what I'll share today, right? And it includes these components like Adobe IO Runtime, Adobe IO Events, Adobe SDK, and our CLI. So for those who aren't familiar, I mean, you might have just jumped right into Firefly without going into Runtime. So I'm going to give just a quick primer on what is Runtime. So it is our serverless solution that is specifically built to help our customers integrate with our technologies. There are general purpose serverless solutions on the market today from Amazon or from AWS, as well as Microsoft and Google. Those are general. This is really specific to quickly getting you up to speed to build out an integration, a microservice, extensible solution, whatever you happen to be building. So we call this creating glue code, essentially custom business logic, inject data to and from other third parties. The reason I made this graphic as a Swiss Army knife, I really look at this as the Swiss Army knife for content and data, because if you want to change content and data, flow from one system into another, there's likely the need to convert from one format to another. So going from JSON to XML or from one data format to another. And this is a fantastic way to handle those types of situations. and use the tools you know, code in JavaScript, run in Node.js, pre-integrated with Adobe IO, events, and API gateways, so you can get up to speed a lot faster. I just want to give a couple of really quick examples of how you would use runtime. And these, because Firefly includes runtime, these are also Firefly use cases. But with Campaign Standard, one of the classic examples is a barcode generator or QR code generator. So basically creating some custom piece of content that you're going to inject into that email for individually for each customer. So you can do that by creating a runtime microservice and then creates that Firefly, or sorry, that personalized email. Another use case is through, for instance, Adobe.com. This is one of the ways that we use runtime today, and that is to create essentially a profile accelerator for customers that visit Adobe.com. They we actually, I guess, scan the cookie and get information about who that customer is, and then we pass it over into our CRM to get data to plug into Audience Manager, and then over to Target, so we can do next page personalization. This is essentially eliminated a lot of latency that we had been seeing by doing it this way. So the architecture stack for Adobe Experience Cloud, I just wanted to throw this up here real quick and point out Project Firefly is part of the Adobe Experience Platform. So we're down there in the lower right, um, and it is our Adobe's cloud extensibility play, essentially enabling our customers and partners to extend not just Experience Platform, but all of the solutions within this stack. So in terms of how do what are the different options available to customers to extend? I just wanted to go through kind of the three options. Certainly, there's out-of-the-box connectors, right? Campaign has a bunch of connectors that come out of the box. A number of our products have out-of-the-box connectors, and when those maybe don't meet your needs, you could move to the next section, which is connectors available through Adobe Exchange. And that is, as I mentioned, like an ISV or third-party company that makes a connector available through that marketplace. Then the last one is you could build something with runtime, a microservice, or a custom application with Project Firefly. So what is Project Firefly? It's simply a complete design, application, and runtime framework for building third-party cloud-native applications that extend functionality within the Adobe Experience Platform and Experience Cloud. And our goal is to help our customers go from idea to having a solution in the shortest amount of time. So uh, having high-speed tools like the command line interface going from CLI to putting together your visuals and then the code to essentially deploying a custom application. And one of the key things is that these applications are hosted inside of the Adobe Experience Cloud. So they're really geared for business to employee use cases where you've got marketing teams or IT teams that are already using the Adobe Experience Cloud as part of their daily activity, and they would get value from having standardized authentication or security models where you're logging into the Experience Cloud, and then you're already you don't have to go to yet another website or another application to do the work that you need to. So who's this for? We're building this for system integrator developers as well as enterprise developers. So essentially, anyone that has the need to integrate and extend Adobe products and solutions that this tool set is custom made for you, essentially. So let me unpack a little bit the components for Project Firefly. Um, so we have a number of new new features beyond runtime that we have packaged with Project Firefly. And first one I'll talk about is the React Spectrum based framework for creating experiences that are going to feel just like an Adobe application, because actually they're the exact same components that we use for building Campaign, for building all of our other products. And we're providing, it's an open source framework, and we're providing these components so that you can just build that UI very quickly and easily. I mentioned CLI and SDKs, so there's a number of SDKs. We've got Campaign, Analytics, and Target. And then I think we've got a partner, Netcentric, that actually built an SDK for platform, for Adobe Experience Platform. And there's more on the way. Runtime, as I mentioned, core to this, and then a number of developer tools. We have CI/CD built into GitHub. And then one of the new things, another new thing is custom events. This is fantastic. So events used to be only available as essentially something that a product team would publish, right? So you would have to leverage perhaps an analytics event based on what the product team was making available through our event gateway. And now you can create custom events. So if you're building an application, you can have an event that fires from inside your application to tell you about some event that has happened. And that's, I think, going to open up a huge range of possibilities. So I'm guessing that everybody is here because they've already joined the developer preview, but I just wanted to plug that if you haven't joined the developer preview, please do, and you can apply here at this link. And if you just go to in the graphic there, it's the adobe.ly/Project Firefly. That'll get you to their homepage, and there's a link to apply right there. So as I mentioned, we've got Spectrum, design system for fonts, colors, and patterns, implemented as CSS and React components, community-driven, fully open source, Adobe supported. We have developer tools, the command line interface, and I'll show you a little bit of that when we go into the quick demo, so you get an idea of what that looks like and how that works. And then console is pretty much where everybody starts, and it's your landing page essentially for building anything in Adobe. You can create a blank project, and if you are onboarded with Project Firefly, what you'll see is this new button called Create Project from Template, and that unlocks the ability to create a Project Firefly app. And we'll show, like I said, how that works and how that looks. The next thing I'll share in this ecosystem for Project Firefly is how we enable our developers to create applications and kind of separate potentially the developer and the sysadmin role by using the My Exchange functionality of Adobe Exchange. So Adobe Exchange already has this application publication workflow, and what we're doing is kind of piggybacking on that and enabling developers to approve applications through this interface, this My Exchange interface, that is only going to be available for that organization. So when you onboard to, or when you request access to Project Firefly, we onboard your org. And that org essentially means that anybody within your company will now see a Project Firefly button, and I'll show that in a second. So Project Firefly product principles, essentially, making hard things easy, because none of this is easy. Developing solutions and opening up code and building something is not trivial, but we want to make it as easy as possible. So pre-integration, the template that you'll see, the kind of WYSIWYG, the wizard that you'll go through, is all intended to really streamline the process that our developers go through. Then everything you need is in the box. We're hoping that we have created a full solution that you can leverage from day one without having to build anything else or go outside of that. However, it's extendable and it grows with your needs. We've built it in such a way that if you needed to swap something out, you could absolutely do that. While we only support Node.js, if you wanted to use some other framework, you could certainly do that. You would have to build that yourself, but that is we don't make that impossible for you to do. Let me quickly go through the Project Firefly stack. I forgot this is a build, so I will build this out, and hopefully it'll be showing up in a second here. But the anatomy of a Firefly app is as a single page application, leveraging React Spectrum on the client side. On the back end, key amongst it is certainly IO runtime. New with Project Firefly is CDN, data storage, file storage. So essentially, we now have storage built into this solution so that you don't have to go off and get your own S3 bucket or what have you, and then custom events. And then those like runtime would connect to public APIs or third-party APIs. And then we've got a Visual Studio plugin in the works in the future. Right now, you can just open up VS Code, which is what we use here internally to do any coding. It has all the hinting and everything. The IO console project template, as I showed a second ago, debugging tools. I'll show a little bit of that in the demo. On the build side, and then on the deploy side, CLI API, GitHub Actions and Secrets. And then on the operations side, we've got usage analytics and monitoring. All right. So next, before we jump into use cases and then the demo, I'm going to share just where you would access, right? So what does this look like from a customer's perspective? And as I mentioned, when you're onboarded, when you get provisioned for Adobe Project Firefly, that you have this new button when you log into Adobe Experience Cloud, Project Firefly apps. And when you click on that, depending on what apps you have published to your org, and likely since most, I think probably everyone on this call hasn't published a Firefly app, you would see nothing in here. But once you publish an app, this is where you would come to access it. Let me jump into use cases, and we'll pretend that you've clicked a button that was for campaign tracking management, essentially, campaign code generator. And it's a fantastic use case. We work with a partner to build this ensemble, and this was a use case that we had within Adobe ourselves. We have a marketing team that they spend a good deal of time creating tracking codes for the campaigns that they put into place that span a number of channels. And so it was a lot to keep track of. And companies, there are solutions that you can buy off the shelf that do this. There's also companies, I think Google recommends just using a spreadsheet to manage this, which gets a little tedious. And so we created this application. I think one of the key benefits is that it's not only a way for you to create these tracking codes and manage the tracking codes, and you can download them and hand them off to a developer or somebody who's going to put those into the solution. You can also directly push them to the application. And that's really where I think the key unlock or the value unlock for Project Firefly is through APIs. These codes are pushed directly into Target, et cetera. So you don't have to involve a developer. So the marketer just has a fully self-service way to manage these tracking codes. Okay, so next use case, we've got a custom analytics dashboard. And this one I kind of look at as a kind of a light BI light. Like, if our product, say Adobe Analytics, doesn't exactly meet your needs, you want to do something completely custom, uh, then you could build it yourself for sure, or you could leverage Project Firefly to build it because you've got all access to all the APIs, all the events, everything that you need, as well as the ability to make it look like it fits within this ecosystem, and that your teams are probably already in Experience Cloud. So this was a use case where a customer wanted to create this super custom view of their data, and essentially they're leveraging the reporting API to pull that information into this Firefly app, and view it for their teams. Here's another great use case, and this is actually a use case for runtime. Bank of America has been a customer for ages, and which we're grateful for. Adobe Target is one of the main tools that they use because they are creating a lot of offers for their customers. And it's a pretty complex system that's constantly changing, and they wanted a way to not have to use the UI for Target's automated personalization. They wanted to essentially, use Excel to manage their offers. And I think again, another key value of Adobe IO and Project Firefly is that we enable our customers to work the way they want to. If they want to leverage, Excel to do all of the offer cataloging and then push that directly into Target, by all means, that's something we can totally do. So they save about 20 hours a week with this. And yeah, this is as I mentioned, it started out as runtime. There is a UI hosted via Adobe IO, and this is being migrated to Firefly right now. So that's in progress. Another use case that we're working with the team at VRT, this is in Europe, and they had this need that they're using a third-party content management system, Drupal in this case, and they didn't want to recreate all that content when they create newsletters, right? I mean, this super common use case where you really reduce the amount of time that you're spending rekeying information. You want to automate this process. So they're leveraging Adobe IO Runtime and soon to be Project Firefly to retrieve content from the CMS and then mash it together with a template that they store in Amazon S3. And again, with Firefly, that would be stored locally, stored using our storage service, and then generate that HTML and plug it directly into Adobe Campaign Standard. They get a great deal of value out of this because it enables a ton of time savings. NetCentric I mentioned early on, where they are creating a POC system, or sorry, they created an SDK for Adobe Experience Platform, and they did it while they were building out this POC. They wanted to show kind of what they could do for their customers, and so they created this kind of demo website with a back-end experience cloud, well, Firefly application that lives on Experience Cloud that is kind of the administrative tool on the back end. So yeah, fantastic use case and fantastic partnership with NetCentric. So let me talk a little bit before we jump into the demo. The Luminews challenge is, I think, it's one of the solutions that was built by and our internal evangelism team talking with media customers. And one of the challenges is getting data as quickly as you possibly can and making sense of it, right? Everybody has tons of data. It's how do you drink from that fire hose and derive insights? So this is this is taking data from Adobe Experience Platform and pulling it into a visualization, which I'll show through the demo, so that analytics teams, can get the insight of what are the stories that are trending on kind of a microsecond basis, right? So I use this example of here in the US, we had the Super Bowl a number of years ago. They had an epic power outage, and there was a team at uh, Oreo that capitalized on that in a, just a super short amount of time by putting out a social post saying you could still eat Oreos in the dark, essentially. And it was wildly possible or popular, and it was made possible because they reacted so quickly based on the information that they had. So it's not entirely one to one to what this is, but anyways, you could check out the business case at that link on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to jump into demos here, and we're going to go through this process. And I'm going to wait for a second for my screen to show up here. And there we go. Okay, so what we're going to show really quickly is, and hopefully some of you have already done this process. I'm not sure. I'm going to show the whole end-to-end process of kind of the approvals as well. So that might be, you might not have gotten to that part yet. So maybe, hopefully that'll be new. But this is essentially going from a project template to creating an application. So starting in creating that template, you'll go in, you'll give the project a title, and then the app name. It's auto-generated, and you can change that to whatever you want it to be. And we're going to save this, and it's going to create this templated project. It's going to automatically create the runtime namespaces, essentially generate those for each of these production stage. We're going to create another workspace, right? So, and we're going to add an API in here. So you click Add API, brings you up that list, and then we're going to go into Adobe Experience Platform and select the Adobe Experience Platform API. And you can create as many of these workspaces as you need to accommodate your development needs and development process. All right. So we're going to go back. We've got this certificate. New console makes generation of certificates so much easier than before. So what we're doing now is we're going to jump into the CLI next, but because we want to have this API added to our production when we push this to production, we want to have the, essentially identical setup. What we're going to do is add this now so we don't have to come back later and do the same process. So select the product profiles, IO integrations, and saving this configuration. I will mention that this is a little bit sped up just to make sure we're not sitting here waiting for it to build a number of things. So it might be a little bit slower when you do this yourselves. So we're going to go into AIO app init. This initializes the projects. You can select the org. One of the things with project that is a nice tip is that you can just start typing, and especially because projects today can't be deleted. There is we hope that by next month we have an update to console where you'll be able to delete projects. That was just something that we didn't get into our latest release of console. So you might have a bunch of, especially as you're getting started, you can start typing and it'll auto complete and give you that. that project name. They're selecting workspace, and now you've got the opportunity to initialize this project, um, and then select what you want to include. What are the components that you want to include here? And then it's going to ask you what actions you want to create. So it'll create kind of skeleton actions that you can just pour information into. And by default, we've got a generic one that we give with all of these. And then because we had Adobe Experience Platform, we have the option of adding that as well. And we've selected both of those. So again, this goes through this process, and it still takes actually, I think, probably about a minute here or so to do this, even though I think I've sped it up to 200% time frame. But yeah, so this is essentially building out this project. Okay, finished. Awesome. So now we're going to jump over into VS Code, and I will share a little bit about what gets created here. So we've got in this manifest YAML file, we have a number of pieces of information. It describes the actions you'd like to deploy. You've got all of these pieces of information in the YAML file. Environment variables you can define in your environment file. And I'm going to jump over environment and the file because there are credentials in there. We don't want to have those credentials visible. So the AIO file contains the config variables useful for the CLI project to facilitate the app, like project and workspace info. And then moving over into the actions folder is the customer profile. Shows how you can make calls to retrieve customer profiles using the platform API. Publish events. And again, so that same information is available there. So let's jump over into the test folder. We'll show sample test is generated by default with each one of the sample actions. I'll show you guys how to run the test later, but you'll know where that's coming from. And then last but not least, we're going to jump into web source folder. This is a folder where you'll put all your front end code. So the default version generated uses the React Spectrum library, which is React implementation of Adobe Spectrum Design Language. You see all of that up at the top there, the components that are imported. So with that, we're going to try and run the application, and we're going to open up the terminal. See if this catches up on for you guys. So we're going to type in AIO app run. And this command will deploy the actions to Adobe IO runtime while keeping the UI part on the local machine. And again, this is sped up a little bit. Okay, I got to speed this up, I think, a little bit more. Takes a bit of time. Okay, waiting for the local server to spin up. You can see the actions have deployed. That was selecting those a second ago. And now we've got these two URLs, right? We've got this localhost URL, and we've got Experience Cloud Shell URL. We're going to skip over the first URL and go straight to the second one. which essentially allows you to open your local app in Experience Cloud shell and debug it using your own IMS profile in real time. We'll take a look now at what that looks like. So you can try invoking sample actions here and see the response. These are hooked to the sample actions we saw earlier in the code. You can see that I'm actually in Experience Cloud UI right now with my own profile. And actually, this is for Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. In her profile. So we're going to go back into Terminal and we're going to run the tests like we promised earlier. So you can get a look at what those look like. So we run the command AIO app test, which runs all the default tests and generates a report for you. You can always add more tests or modify existing ones. Again, infinitely extendable based on whatever your needs are. Okay, and so now we're going to switch gears and I'll show a pre-built application. It's just a simple dashboard that allows experience events coming into Experience Platform. So this is actually the Luma News example use case that I was talking about it at the end there of the use case section. And so we're going to go into the directory on the local machine and do a trick where we can take the existing code and use the CLI to switch credentials so that I'm deploying this code with a new set of credentials. So here I'm going to go into the project and workspace I just created. And once I'm in that workspace, I can do AIO app use. And this command downloads that credential from console and places it inside this project. With these new credentials, we're going to go ahead and deploy this new app. And this is going to take a minute or two. I actually don't know if I sped this one up. Anyway, so what's been happening behind the scenes is that all the back-end actions are built and compiled. So are the front-end static files. Once the build is complete, action gets deployed into Adobe IO runtime and the front-end code to a CDN hosted by Adobe. So again, this allows a great deal of speed and flexibility at creating these applications for your end users. There we go. So we now have a little surfer dude and our application is now live. So if we click the URL that's up on the screen here, you can see that unlike the earlier app that was pointing to localhost, this time the local dev URL is pointing to a hosted domain, and that's where the app is live. I can click on this to open the deployed application in Experience Cloud UI. So there we go. So what you're seeing here is there's certainly no information available right now on this in this view because this relies on people hitting this news site that we have set up. And at the time that we made this recording, there were nobody hitting this site, so it's kind of a boring view, but just know that it works. And if somebody was hitting that website, you would see views in the every 10 seconds or so it would update. You can see that was we are on Adobe IO. So let me show real quickly how the process works for submitting an application. So we're going to go back into production, and we are going to, you can see it's in development. We're going to submit this for approval. And this brings up this form that allows the developer to put in an app description, a contact email, app icon, etc., and a note to reviewer, essentially something to tell the reviewer what this app is and such. So we click submit. This is then going to go into that Adobe Exchange, the My Exchange section. So now with our sysadmin hat, we're going to go over into My Exchange once this app is submitted for review. I think this is one of those I didn't slow down, so this is about the time it takes. And again, this process is so that you have some gatekeeper method of ensuring that only apps that the sysadmin for this org approves, apps that that they want the employees to see, because you can clearly test your app in both the UI as well as localhost prior to getting to this stage. So go over to My Exchange, and here you'll see a list of Experience Cloud apps. You select the org that you're provisioned for, and then you can review the apps that are pending a review here. And then you can approve it, reject it, send back a note, etc. You can open up the app. There you go. So that is the way that you would go through the whole process from end to end, from development all the way into getting an app approved and published. App approved successfully. Okay, so now I'm going to jump back into the presentation, and we will open this up for Q&A. One of the things before we jump into Q&A, I wanted to quickly point out for folks, there are a number of pieces of documentation. We've got videos like this webinar, we've got screencasts, getting started guides, etc. There's code labs that you can step through, gives you kind of step-by-step examples of how to do various things with Project Firefly, and then a number of demo apps available to look at. Okay, so jumping into Q&A, I think, Gia, if you want to put up the poll again for the exit poll, we'll open it up for questions. I'm gonna jump over to, I can see Q&A pod. Hey Prem, I'm glad that you joined us. Thank you for joining today. So what is an option to use other than Node.js supported like Java? So again, Node.js is the only language that we have today, only framework that we support today. If there is another technology that you want to use, like Java, you can absolutely do that, but we don't provide any tooling for you. You'd have to kind of build that yourself. And Manish asks, is this session being recorded? Will it be available later? Yeah, actually there's an answer already, so yes. And then server-side launch extensions also supported via Firefly. So for that one, it's an interesting question. I'm going to hand over to Sarah, if Sarah's still here. Jump in and answer that one. That'd be awesome.
Yes, I'm actually typing as well. So not at the moment, to the best of my knowledge. We haven't actually had a chance, because it's such a new feature. I haven't had a chance to really look in depth with what are the use cases with Project Firefly and server-side launch extensions. But as that is part of platform, any platform use case is supported on Project Firefly. So if you want to extend that and you have use cases, you're more than welcome to try it out with Project Firefly. I guess we just don't have one currently in mind that we can share with you yet.
All right. So looks like use cases is the winner for use cases and technical demos. So that's good. That's awesome. That definitely we're constantly looking for from our customers and partners more use cases. We've been working with our professional services team here at Adobe as well as a number of partners to flesh out a number of these use cases. And then technical demos, we definitely want to provide more, you know, insight into exactly how do you build some of these solutions and more step-by-step guides, and those are definitely coming.
Ron, I think this would be a good one to talk through. Pablo just asked in the chat line, how does it handle workflow slash request? The cost for the client will be by X number of requests.
Yeah, so that's interesting. We don't have, so this is about pricing. Is that the question?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. So I guess maybe I can talk a little bit about Project Firefly and then hand over
Sure.
to the runtime component of things. So Project Firefly itself is currently in developer preview, which means any usage on top of our platform is part of this developer preview program and not actually with cost. So right now you can use it for free as long as you are an enterprise customer who is a part of our program. That being said, because we're in developer preview, the overall Project Firefly does not have SLA or enterprise support and all those things that comes with signing a contract and handing us money. That being said, all the compute for Project Firefly is actually happening on Adobe IO runtime, as Ron mentioned earlier, and runtime itself is actually it's something that you can purchase. Ron, would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, yeah. So runtime, and that brings up the interesting point. If you're a runtime customer today, and we do have customers that have purchased runtime and are now part of the Firefly Developer Preview, their runtime portion is covered under SLA, but anything that is not part of runtime, so for instance, custom events or something that a new feature that we're incubating is not covered under an SLA. And where runtime is priced, we price it similarly how other serverless vendors do. Well, it's the number of invocations, the memory that you're using, and the time, the server time to use or to come up with a gigabyte per second, or sorry, gigabyte seconds, not per second gigabyte second number. And depending on what your needs are, we sell them in 1 million gigabyte second units. But that was a great question. So we got about 5 minutes left before we're plan to end this. If there's any other questions, by all means, let us know, and we are happy to answer those. One of the things, if you do have questions that you want answered that you didn't get in for this, or that come up later, the best place to get answers is from our support forum. We had a customer that we talked to a couple weeks ago, and they were surprised at how quickly we responded to questions on the forum. We've got teams in Europe, in the US, and essentially we are looking at it pretty much 24/7. So if you post something there, we'll probably get back to you pretty quickly. Okay, Sarah, anything else that I didn't catch or?
Do we talk about the IO dev email for anyone who might have a use case in mind?
Hey, No, we didn't. That's a great call out. Yes. So if you are looking for, you know, if you want some help from our team in terms of fleshing out a use case or talking about, hey, I'd like to use Firefly for this, would it be, a good use case? Um, then definitely send an email to us at IODEV at adobe.com. And we would be, there you go. Thanks, Sarah, for putting that in the chat or yeah, in the event chat. We'd be happy to talk with you about and kind of put our heads together about how we can make Firefly work for you. All right. Um, so again, thank you all for joining us. This has been fantastic. Thanks for taking the time, and we will have our next webinar 2 weeks from today. So we'll do these every couple of weeks, and yeah, so if you miss this one, there'll be a recording of it, and we'll have posted on the Adobe IO Firefly homepage. So essentially that adobe.ly/project Firefly, that landing page that it goes to, will have the next event and how to attend posted there. So thank you guys for your time. This was great.